So with that being said, man, so you do wealth management. Everyone should go talk to you, and thanks for being on.
Absolutely. What is it? What are we, an hour in and not even discussed? I love it.
This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals. Mostly.
So, what sport would be the funniest to add a mandatory amount of alcohol to, in your opinion?
Yes. I think any of them. That'd be awesome. Hold on, let me think. Curling. It needs a little extra something to zhuzh it up, zazz it up. You know?
Yeah, we're kind of doing things a little bit differently, just kind of casually stepping into the podcast instead of being so formal. This is the mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, where we talk to mostly Middle Tennessee business entrepreneurs, owners, professionals, all that fun stuff. It is a Friday afternoon when we're recording this. We might have taken a few nips of the brown water, a really good one. I don't know what you're talking about either. My name is Jim McCarthy, and today we are talking to Mr. Mike Mercurio. This is a long time coming. We always talk about getting you on, and we always have you in here for another podcast of ours, the Ales and Tales podcast. Actually, if I'll hold up the, he's got it there too. We do the Ales and Tales podcast where we sit.
The hosts on that show
they're so annoying. So annoying, especially that guy that fires off all the sound effects all the time and
the button
annoys
guy.
the crap out of you.
Gee, I wonder who that would be, Jim.
The bane of your existence. Mike is one of these guys I met way back in the car business. He was he was a mentor of sorts. He really kind of showed me the ropes and was really nicer than some of the other managers at the time, and until I warmed up to them. You were the guy.
Then I got to know you. Then I became absolutely dastardly towards you, I think.
Well, that's fine. But it's like we kind of we've been friends now for 12 years. You believe that?
It's a long time. I know.
You believe that? 12 years, man.
It's awesome.
Back when we were in our 30s. So
I remember those days.
Yeah. I do too.
That was a deep reminiscence right there, man.
It's like a sad reminiscence, yeah, as I'm, pushing the big 5-0 this year. And the reason why I wanted to have him on for such a long time, because he's an excellent communicator, very articulate, very intelligent. When I talk about selling, you were instrumental in that. You taught me a lot of different psychological angles and things of that nature. Is this stuff you even want to go into? I should probably have asked.
It's fine. Yeah. It's all good. We can talk about whatever, man.
Yeah. Because, what you do now, you've really kind of embraced a relational approach, because with what you do now, you have to,
Well, yes, I have. I should. Everybody should, honestly. And I honestly always did. That's something that's always been a part of just my personality or my upbringing or whatever, is just meet the person where they are, learn about them, tell them the truth, be sincere. And that goes farther than anything else in life as far as I'm concerned.
Well, you also were that guy that if you had a customer at the dealership and they worked with you previously, even though you were in a management position, they always sought you out. They would always say, I worked with Mike. I remember him. I enjoyed it. Where is he? And I'd say, well, he's a floor manager. He doesn't really, but I can work alongside him if you want me to help you and stuff like that. And I completely understand what you're saying. So if you're listening to this podcast, this is a good one to listen to for a lot of, not dare I say, eye-opening wealth advice, but a different perspective on wealth and money management. Okay. But, getting into the background of things and how we met, it was instrumental. Because I don't think you weren't the typical what you think is a car salesman, No,
I've got a lot of funny stories about that, but the simplest one I can point out was the fact that so when I started in Wilmington, North Carolina in the car business by accident. Mm-hmm. I literally woke up and suddenly I was in a car dealership. I don't know how it happened, but when I was given an opportunity and I was hired and I was taken down to Destin, Florida. And got to know,
Paradise.
It was quite nice, minus the hurricanes and skinny little guy and a lot of wind. Right. That doesn't work too well. But anyway, so every one of the people there, like the management team, they had like their own crew of people and everything else. They're always like, "You are so weird." And I'm like, why? And they couldn't put their finger on it. And it was because I was not sleazy.
Right.
I was not the stereotypical car business person. It was not something I ever thought to be in, wanted to be in. I fell in, and I was good at it because I didn't do what everybody else did. I just was truthful with everybody. Like, look, yeah, this is that. You're probably not, this is probably not for you. This might, I don't know. It just worked out well. But they were always like, "You are so weird." And I'm like, no, I'm not. Yeah. I'm really not. I'm just a normal guy. Yeah. But they weren't used to normal. Which
depending on what normal is such a subjective label.
Yeah.
But you definitely get characters in that business.
Oh, yeah.
Well, even in radio, we had character. I mean, obviously.
Everything does. Yeah. Just different personalities and whatnot. Yeah. And I don't know. I've been a fairly mellow, just straight head dude.
Well, you were in that business for a bit of time.
Yeah.
You and I came out of the Honda dealership. I went to a Mercedes, and a short time thereafter, you also worked at a Cadillac, and then eventually moved on to a Porsche store, which is like, on the surface, a dream for you. Mm. But, internally might have been just, ownership stuff.
It was nice because I could do everything myself. The client came in, and I just got to handle the client pretty much from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. So, it's not the handoff that, everybody, you talk to anybody who buys cars and they're always like, "Oh, then I had to go into the back office and talk to some other random guy. And then they took me to this guy and I had to wait for the manager."
The box.
Yeah. So it was nice because I'd done all the different roles throughout the years that I was in the auto industry, and I could just walk them through everything.
I find it interesting that I talk to hardly nobody from my radio days. But I talked to probably a handful of people from my car business days, in which I spent maybe 3 years, and it's even when I left the Honda dealership to go to Mercedes, my wife was like, "Well, you're going to miss it." I said, "Yeah, I'm going to miss." Those were fun guys to work with. It was a fun crew, as stressful as it was, changing and pivoting at age 37 into a business that I had no idea about. I understood selling in its principles, but I wasn't a good closer. And I think you were instrumental in that. JC Ward was instrumental in that. And eventually we worked with Rick. Rick was one of my favorite guys at the desk who I worked with. And Car Dog, Larry, he was good too. And you start finding out how to have conversations with people that make sense, that, help them make a decision, and yeah, you want to be persuasive to a certain extent. And we all did that because at the end of the day, we still got to make a sale, and,
Well, the whole reason somebody was there was because they wanted a car.
Right.
And I in my experience through all the years that I'd been dealing with it and in all the different roles that I was in, they were either going to go somewhere else and either be misled. They were going to go somewhere else and just be sold a bill of goods. They were going to be persuaded on a feature that was told to them, but was the same feature on another vehicle, but wasn't told to them. They just weren't given all the information. So I just figured, let's just give them all the information, make sure they're fully informed, make sure they understand what to ask if they go anywhere else, so that at least they're going to get the same full information there. And then they're naturally going to be persuaded to work with the people who are straightforward with them.
You could tell when people are working for a good culture in that business because, Steve Brink at the time, who I had on the podcast a couple of months back.
That was a good podcast.
Oh my gosh. Wasn't he great to listen to and hear from again?
Hearing that voice after years
I
was
know.
awesome.
He had such a great,
Bo, how you doing?
He sounded like John Madden. He still does. But he was one of these gregarious guys who, no matter what was happening, I mean, the whole dealership could be burning down. He would come out of his office with a big old smile on his face and make sure that, the people underneath him weren't aware of what he's dealing with, because that was his job to kind of shield us from the stuff that was coming downhill. Not really blaming us for it, but that's how my impression of him was. I also knew him for many years prior to that in the radio business, because we did a lot of marketing and stuff like that together, a lot of video. And he was a culture creator, whether he knew it or not. He was able to go in and shape people, and people felt like he had their back, which is very important. And it was one of those things that he just, when you could tell when you're going into a dealership, the more transactional you feel like people are being, the salespeople, the less of a culture, healthy culture it's going to have. Mm-hmm. And honestly, the less memorable the people are going to be. Mm-hmm. That just kind of dawned on me just now, because that was one of the things that I took away, even going into Mercedes. I wanted to be the guy who knew the brand inside and out. Plus, I developed a passion for the brand. I didn't realize I was going to be a Mercedes guy, but man, what a fun product to sell. And I was memorable because I took them on an experience, right?
Because you had a passion for it.
A passion for it, but you also did the same thing with Honda. I remember watching walk-arounds with you.
I had a huge passion for Honda at the time. I loved it.
Still do.
I've had numerous. I still drive one now.
Yeah. You pulled up in one. Mm-hmm. But, just even describing the engine compartment one time, I was like, oh, look at that. Because I would shadow, and listen and pick things up. But man, what a time. That was a lot of fun.
It was talking about what you mentioned earlier, which was, having connections with these people from even only 3 years. You want to get to know somebody well, spend, 10 hours a day with the same people every single day, going through all kinds of random scenarios. You're going to get to know them pretty well, pretty quickly. Yeah. And that's, the car business was a grind.
It was a grind. It could be cutthroat. Mm-hmm. It could be backstabbing, depending on the culture you're in.
Mm-hmm. You were very fortunate. Like I tell people when they ask me what it was like to be in the car business, when I got into the car business, I tell people to watch the first half of the movie Suckers.
Right.
It was bad. Yeah. It was sketchy. And I was just looking around going, I am not supposed to be here. This is not okay. Which is why I just kind of separated myself from all of it and stuck where I tried to stick to my
your lane.
Morals lane, whatever it was. I was just like, I'm not dealing with that. And ultimately ended up in a very good culture. Again, Steve Brink and James Jones and those people at the Honda dealership.
Brian Palmer above Steve. Brian Palmer, I think, was a good culture guy.
It was very different. Yeah. It was very interesting. He was old school, but he
understood people.
He treated people with the old school mentality, which was harsh, but he was a fair guy.
He was fair, but
a lot of people had trouble dealing with that because it was just,
he would tell you what he thought.
Everything was right between the eyes, everything he ever said. And some people struggled with that, yeah.
But all the people that I ever actually, I didn't work directly with him, but I always knew of him through the radio station and stuff like that. But he always had the respect of his people. Mm-hmm. People really did enjoy being under his employ.
Yeah. He led well. And much like Steve, knowing Steve for years, I watched him become just a phenomenal leader.
He did. And he was less about himself and more, he understood the element of management where it was, look, it's not about me. I'm here to make sure you guys are taken care of, that you got the tools you need, that you're being fed. I even believe that when we have like Thanksgiving dinners or celebration lunches and things of that nature, he would literally be the last one to eat last. He would be the last one to eat, which is a commendable trait. And it's something I even carry forward now. With our team here, if we have an event, I hold off. Everybody else gets fed before I do. Unless they make me. Oh, no, go ahead. And I'm like, oh, no, you go. No, you go ahead. No, you go. Okay, fine, I'll go. But in that business, you also did a lot of F&I, finance and insurance. Did that kind of did you have a basic understanding of wealth and finance prior to that, or did that kind of introduce?
Very basic.
Yeah.
But that was what I think ultimately led me to where I am now.
Right.
When you get into that office and you start seeing, I think the misconception that I had when I first got in the car business was that if somebody wanted a car, they went out, they researched, figured out what they want. And then when they went to a dealership, they were like, this is what I want. I want it in this color. Let's get it going. Here's the money. Here's my financing. Done. Mm-hmm. And what I found was that was maybe 20% of the people. Mm-hmm. The other 80% were coming in going, just, can you help me? I just need to get a car. Can you help me get financed? Can you help me I have terrible credit, or this is going on, or I don't have a down payment, or I can't afford this. And I was going, wow, I did not understand that this was the majority of the situation.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people in those situations I know were getting taken advantage of. And I was like, this is not okay. And when I got into the management roles, did what I could to, I'm not saying the dealerships were all taking advantage of people, but I saw them, even if they left or in other scenarios in their life, they're just getting taken advantage of because banks don't lend money to people who need money.
Yeah.
Right. Banks only lend money to people who already have money.
Yeah.
And can pay it back. That's the whole purpose. Typically, that's how it goes.
Right.
And I watch these people coming into dealerships and just trying to deal with the regular aspects of life here, there, and everywhere else. And it was kind of a problem at times for them. And when I was dealing with the taking their financial application to get a car, I was seeing what was going on. I was starting to see the big picture of here's what they make, here's what's going on, here's what their mortgage is, what other debts do they have? And I'd pull the credit report and see tons of credit card debt and tons of other things going on. And that's what ultimately led me to realize there was a lot more going on in people's lives that needed to be fixed, that if that was fixed, it would be the catalyst for so many other things in their life being improved.
Right.
And I just, that sung to my heart. I was like, man, how can I do that? And we ultimately ended up getting clients in that, were having a hard time getting a car. And I was like, look, we may not be able to help these people get a car right now, but we can help them get them better off. They're going to be thrilled that we, steered them the right direction and didn't hoodoo them.
Yeah.
And they're going to send people to us because they know that we're trustworthy and we're going to take care of them. And then when they can buy a car because of the things we've shown them to do, they're going to come back.
Right.
And they're going to trust us because we did right by them. We didn't try to sell them a bill of goods. We took care of them, much like what you're talking about with the leadership. That's how we're supposed to be in life. Is if we take care of others, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
And that's, you find good leaders. They're looking out for others first.
That's good leadership in a nutshell. Just it's less about you and more about them.
Right.
It's like almost Gary Vaynerchuk calls it 51-49. And if you look at life as give 51% or more and make less of yourself, you're going to be, like you're talking about, you're going to be okay. Because it does make a lot of sense. You in social media, even if it's far less about you and more about your audience in terms of what you're sharing, it's about, because they're seeking value.
Mm-hmm.
As we doom scroll, that's what we're looking for, stuff that entertains, makes us laugh, informs, fun drum fills, right? Mike just showed me a whole bunch of stuff. Apparently your Instagram algorithms are nothing but drum fills as of late.
Right.
Because that was the other thing we had in common. We're both drummers. So
we got good rhythm.
It was. It's funny because the first time I met you, I believe, was around January or February.
That was an interesting noise.
Yeah, I know. It's my phone is ringing. Of 2013, because I had planned on leaving the radio business and getting into the car business, but I had a detour that popped up out of nowhere. And I had to tell Steve, hey, I know I was going to do this, but I got something better popped up. Essentially is what I had to tell him. And I hated it that I had to tell him that. But he's like, no, we're all good, buddy. If it doesn't work out, come and see me. Seriously? Yeah, man, well, come on. We'll bring you on. He was so accommodating. Mm-hmm. But you were one of the people I believed I talked to. Because remember, they actually had me shadow for a Saturday, and I worked with Jim.
Yes.
Oh, gosh, what was his name? Remember that?
Yes. God, what is his?
I almost sold a car that day.
What is his name? Yeah.
Lawrence.
Yes.
Jim Lawrence.
I was going to say, yep.
Yes.
Big Jim.
Big Jim. So he was the guy I shadowed all day. And I don't know if I saw you that day. Maybe I did. But when I came in to do, I guess, a formal application or interview, you were a part of that. And I don't know if I told you this. I instantly liked you the first time I met you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go.
It's I come across as very non-threatening. I'm about as intimidating as a basket full of puppies. So,
it's not non-threatening. It's you're helpful. You're willing to help, and a lot of I could feel the vibes off of some of the guys that were like, oh, it's just Steve's buddy that he knew from radio, and he's doing somebody a favor. Let's see how this guy works out. If he's going to be tested or something like that. And I understood that aspect of it. I mean, that business brought so much out of me. Not brought it out of me, but made me realize that the tools I had accumulated over the years were far more useful, like even just being assertive, not just with customers, but also managers, because they would try and posture to you, bully tactics.
Again, it was a very interesting culture. The car business is a very interesting culture. You never know what you're going to get. It's very, very wild.
Didn't you have a situation where you were going to jump across the desk and choke somebody?
There were a number of challenging situations.
Not in that dealership, but I know it was another one.
There were a number of challenging situations, but that's just, again, everybody's just kind of, there's a lot of aggressive people and a lot of, again, in sales, which is, I never liked sales. I never wanted to be in sales. I am a terrible salesman because I'm just going to tell the truth. And when you think of,
you're a great salesman.
Well, I appreciate that, but I believe it's an entire side effect of just my belief in my belief system.
Right.
Whereas in other cases, a lot of the salesmen in the business, especially early on when I got into the business, it was just whatever you need to do to get them and I was like, ugh.
Everything was a sale. Every step was, as far as the first contact, the phone call or the email. If you got an email, it was to get them on the phone. And if they got them on the phone, it was to get them into the dealership. Mm-hmm. Or at least, if you got them on the phone, to get their contact information. And the way we would do that is to, I think legitimately, if they were calling in about a certain car, you did want to see if the car was there. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me go check and put hands on it, as we used to say, and let me get back to you what's a good number. So at least on the surface, because sometimes we wouldn't have caller ID or what have you. Mm-hmm. But just to have that permission from the customer that, yes, you can call me back. That was a psychological tactic to at least get that first level of trust covered. Mm-hmm. That, I will call you back. Hey, it's here. When do you want to come in and take a look at it? And typically they would answer with, well, what's your best price on it? Well, okay, why don't you just see if you like it first? Because in that business, it gets a bad rap because you have on one end, the management, the dealership, the business trying to hold their gross, hold their revenue and their profit and stuff like that because they are a business. They didn't do themselves a favor in a lot of situations by, marking up financing or addendums and tire shine and mop and slop and things of that nature. But on the other side, it taught the public that they can negotiate. And it was a bad, quote unquote, bad experience if, they ever paid at or near sticker price. Well, that was a bad experience. Well, okay. You go to the grocery store and you pay 150% profit on a loaf of bread, but don't balk at it. Mm-hmm. Understandably, it's not your second largest purchase you're going to make, but still, it's okay. If you want it to be quick, then you got to pay the sticker, right? So it's an interesting business dynamic, and it teaches you a lot about the core concepts of business. I think.
I would say yes, but more than anything, it teaches you the core dynamics of understanding another human being and communicating clearly.
Absolutely.
That's huge.
But I mean, if you want to own a business without actually owning a business, without having to worry about inventory and HR and back office and accounting and all the other things that come along with the headaches of owning your own business, essentially being an entrepreneur, that's about as pure as it gets. Mm. Because you can create a business within a business if you stay long enough and if you play your cards right and you understand marketing yourself. Because we all knew those guys. We didn't have one in that dealership. I didn't think I ever worked with anybody in my time that was that.
Larry
was kind of there.
Car Dog had his own cards, he had a logo on his own vehicle.
I did the same thing, but I wasn't there as long as he was. But I've met people that, they sell 35, 45, 50 cars a month and they need an assistant. That's the kind of person I'm talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a different level.
Yeah. There was Lynn Whitty and Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge. She's one of them. She's been with the dealership, I think, probably since 94. Mm. And she's just got, a book of business that's as long as both arms. Mm. There was a guy at Deerfield Beach Toyota where
you don't say.
Robert.
Oh.
He went to.
Oh, okay.
Robert Palmer. Palmer? No.
Holly?
No.
Wait.
We just mentioned him. Brian Palmer. Robert Palmer. Gosh, it's Friday afternoon, guys. And we may have had I've had some sips of brown water. Brian Palmer, he ended up going down there, but they had one of those guys who I think his wife was his assistant, and he probably sold 60, 70 cars a month. Mm. And if he oh my gosh, that must be so easy. No, it isn't. You're selling on average 2 or 3 cars a day at that point.
Yeah.
That is a ton of work. People have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all the different, showing everything, going through the vehicle, doing all the paperwork, you need assistance.
Delivering the car.
Yeah.
Showing them all the features.
If they're doing it, hopefully.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is that,
That's another thing. Talk to everybody and see if they actually were delivered their vehicle and understand all the buttons.
Well, Mercedes had an app. You had to follow the app and show them and check off as you went along. It made it a lot easier. I enjoyed that part, showing them the car, but it was part of the salesperson's job. What it should be really at that level, we started introducing concierge to do that for us. But yeah. So eventually you got the Porsche. Was that kind of like I've made it kind of moment for you?
No.
Because it did lead you to what you're doing now.
Well, the reason I went to Porsche was because I had the opportunity while I was doing that to transition. It was a lot different. You're going to get one client every once in a while. Mm-hmm. It's not like you're going through 5 people a day showing 20 cars a day. You would show 1 to 2 cars a day. Mm-hmm. If some days there's nothing. So it gave me time to do all the studying that I needed to do and all the transition work that I needed to do to be able to do what I do now.
But you came on board as a fan.
I was a fan of Porsche. Yeah, I owned a Porsche before I went to Porsche. Which was because, so growing up in a muscle car family, my dad, as a side hustle, was always getting old muscle cars, and we would work on them and fix them up and do whatever, and then flip them to make extra money. And it's also just a passion of his that he loved old cars.
Yeah.
And it became a passion of mine. I love classic cars. My daily driver for 9 years was a 63 Nova that he and I built.
Oh my gosh.
But I was used to that type of vehicle, which means no power steering, no power brakes, maybe brakes. It was basic, no air conditioning. I was just used to that, and I was fine with it, and I loved it. And the horsepower and the feel and everything else. But I had not dealt with anything more modern until when I first got into finance in the auto industry. The regional finance director came by, and I saw him pull up in a Porsche Cayman. I didn't know what it was. I just saw it pull up, and I went, "That is beautiful." And I said, "Hey, can I go look at your car?" He goes, "Forget that. Let's just go for a ride."
Yeah.
And have you ever been so scared that you laughed hysterically because there was nothing else to do? That was what I did. He went around a corner at 90 miles per hour accelerating. Mm-hmm. And I was, you can't do that in any car I ever was in, again.
You're not doing that in a Honda.
You can't make a corner at 20.
Yeah.
And he does this, and I'm just like, I'm dead. We're dead. That's it. And I was cracking up, laughing hysterically because I was like, this is the end of my life. And he's laughing. He's got tears rolling down his face. I've got tears rolling down my face, and it's for totally different reasons. Mm-hmm. Death for me and hilarious for him. And we got back to the dealership, and I was like, I will have one of these. This is the most amazing thing I've ever experienced in my life. I didn't know corners are a thing.
Yeah.
I ended up a couple years later having the fortune to get one, and I loved it. It was amazing, and I became a true fan of the brand.
Yeah. So you came into the dealership being a fan and understanding the technology.
Yeah, having a deep passion and much more knowledge about them after that because I had really dug into it. Yeah.
Porsche is definitely a different animal because you get in and, they just do things their own way. Everything's a lot more tactile. Mm-hmm. And then there's everything's got a button. There's a lot of buttons in Porsches.
They've just gotten away from that. It drives me crazy.
Really?
Yeah, it's all touch stuff now.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
Well,
I thought they were never going to do that.
The other element is the key goes in on the left side.
You know why?
Why?
Because during the early racing series that started when they first really got into that type of racing, Mercedes and Audi and Porsche, the race drivers had to run to their car at the gun. So, go. Yeah. All the drivers had to run to their cars, jump in, start the cars, and that was the beginning of the race. And the key on the left allowed the driver to jump in, putting the key in it while getting into the car, and it shaved a hair of a second off.
It's all what matters. Mm-hmm. My goodness.
Porsche was
I had no idea.
Porsche's an engineering company before a vehicle company. It's an engineering company. That's why you'll see watches and hard drives and all kinds of other stuff is because they've been Harley, mm-hmm. the V-Rod Harley, the engine is actually designed and created by Porsche because Harley wanted something that was a bit different. Not saying that other Harleys aren't reliable. Don't kill me, Harley people. But they wanted a different style engine, wanted to go about it in a different approach, and they wanted an engineering company to truly draw up the best possible engine for that. And they reached out to Porsche. It was a brilliant design idea in the fact that Porsche engineering, if you ever engage them to design something, they will design it for you, but they get to keep the rights to it also.
Right.
So they get to learn, they get to keep rights to doing whatever they've created for you. You get it, but so do they.
When did they start in business? Do you remember?
No. 20s, 15, 10s.
Yeah.
Maybe 04.
Because Mercedes is the first car company.
Yeah.
We started in the 1880s, I believe.
I don't remember. It's been so long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were the first car company. Porsche was an engineering company prior to that, doing other things, and got into the car things. And then Porsche was the first electric car. It was like in 1912 or something like that. Ferdinand Porsche designed and built an electric vehicle, but it took, like, the entire vehicle was just batteries everywhere.
Right.
But they designed it.
And the oil companies didn't. They looked down on that. No, you're not doing that.
I think there was a lot of things that were,
Rockefeller was like, no. We've got a lot more to squeeze out of this orange before we start doing that. We got to make sure that petroleum. Who's this Tesla guy? We got to make sure we take care of him. Because Tesla had a lot of good ideas.
Nikola Tesla had a bunch of great ideas. And actually that's an interesting story. Read about that and his, and how he was taken down by, Edison.
I know. Edison kind of ripped off his ideas.
Well, maliciously maligned him too. They used to shock elephants and kill them, saying that it was the current of electricity that Tesla was using when it wasn't. And they'd do it in front of kids and families and everything else, and see what he's doing and he's going to do to you. And it was wild.
Yes. Just know what the truth is anymore.
Even back then.
Dude. I just had this conversation with Rich, our good friend, the drummer. And he was talking about, something that happened in the news recently. And I was like, dude, nobody knows what the truth is anymore. I said, I don't know if we ever did.
It's out there. That was a sci-fi show.
X-Files.
X-Files. There you go. It is out there. It's just, you've got to find people who are willing to focus on that more than anything else.
Right.
Is it the truth they want, or is it the power that they get from adjusting the truth? Or as a guy I knew years ago, and a friend of mine used to say, he says, I don't lie. I just change the truth to better suit my needs. I was like, I don't think that's how that works.
I will substitute your reality and replace it with my own.
That's right. But I mean, I literally, and you've heard me ask this before, I ask most of my clients somewhere along the way, when the truth is available, when do you want it?
Right.
Because I'll give it to you.
That's a lot of what you do. I mean, getting back to the Porsche thing, Porsche was integral. Little did you know, even though it was great, you were able to go to that dealership. And the reason why I bring that your aspect and your background in cars into this is because this is integral into your journey into doing what you're doing now, because you met the guy who hired you, right?
Yeah. I was fortunate enough that I had built up, a decent amount of savings and wanted to start doing more with it. And I knew what I knew, which was fortunately more than, I guess, a lot of folks. I was fortunate from dealing with a lot of other people's credit issues and solving their stuff and dealing with what their financial woes were, trying to help them. So I knew more, but I still only knew like a slice of the pie.
Right.
And when I met Dan, my business partner now, years and years ago, we talked about, some of the things I wanted to do. And he was like, well, have you thought about this? And I was like, no. Have you thought about that?
So you already had, you had the inklings of a foot being out of the door.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
I was not aware of that. I thought it just kind of came up.
The car business was never a long-term thing. Honestly, like I truly...
You were in it a long time.
I was for 13 plus years.
Yeah.
It was intended to be a stopgap.
Right.
For a very brief period of time. So my best friend, brother, Randall, and I lived together in Wilmington, North Carolina. When I got out of college, he moved up to Wilmington to get a different viewpoint from, farmland, Monroe, North Carolina, where there was nothing but cornfields and soybean fields and anhydrous ammonia, which means chicken poop. And I was like, you need to get out of there, dude. Come to Wilmington. Yeah. And so he did. So he was my roommate, and we didn't have heat for like a number of years. We were just broke.
Yeah.
And I saw an advertisement that said $5,000 sign-on bonus, car dealership. And I'm like, and I looked out at my 63 Nova with no air conditioning, and I went, I know all about cars. I deal with them all the time.
Right.
I like $5,000. I went and applied, and they were like, okay, you're hired. Come back tomorrow. And I expected to come in and get a bunch of training and this, that, and the other. And I had no idea
They threw you to the
what I
lions.
was stepping into. Literally, I walked in and they were like, all right, go sell a car. And I went, say what?
Yeah.
And I did. I went out. The first people I met, I went out and talked with them, and I was just like, guys, I want to let you know,
I'm
it's
new.
my first day. I have no idea what is going on.
They used to tell us, be new as long as possible.
Yeah, just be new and be honest. Be like, I don't know.
It was said to me, stay new and stay stupid.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's truthfully. I mean, the more you know, the more you want to try and hammer people with things that they don't care about, and you're just going to.
You embarrass yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it happened, and lo and behold, it ended up being for the first time in a good while that I made some money out of college, and I was like, all right, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But again, I was also surrounded by a lot of craziness. The third week I was there, I was sent with these two other guys that were like the frickin' frack of the one of the sales managers. And the sales manager didn't show up, and they're like, "You three, go get him out of his apartment and get him to work now." And I was like, I thought I was supposed to sell cars. What is going on?
Yeah.
And we had to go, and dude had been on like some crazy bender and hadn't showed up over a couple of days. I didn't even realize it because it was my days off.
People, this is why car dealers are the way they are.
I'm telling you, watch the movie Suckers. Just the first half, you'll get an understanding of what it was like.
You'll have dealerships out there, probably even today, that, the end of the month will come, they'll get their paychecks, and people will drop off the face of the earth because they're blowing that money on things like blow, on whatever. It's nuts. And when you have, I understand the plight of management as much as I disagree with it, and they should take the high road. Management still will shoot themselves in the foot by treating the people that come on board and learn in a militaristic fashion, like they're in boot camp. Mm-hmm. So a lot of hazing, a lot of, hard knocks, if you will. And while it doesn't serve their long-term needs because they're not really investing and pouring themselves in, I understand, because you don't know if that person's really in it for the long haul, if it's a job or a career,
50% of the salespeople, I think, did not have a driver's license. That was all from DUIs. Dude, I have so many stories that will absolutely blow people's minds that I'm not going to share all of them. But
in those stories, like even from where we worked, a lot of people had similar problems like that. But I also heard the stories of, because of Steve's influence and Brian's influence, helping those people.
Again, that was a very different, very different culture.
I was spoiled. I get it.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Again, we had the personality differences and the crazy hours that come with it because that's just part of the business. But you did not have the second dealership I ever went to. I went with third dealership. The management team left. The entire management team just blew out of the dealership and said, all right, guys, come with us. We're going to go. We've got another position over this new dealership we're going to take over tomorrow. And we're like, okay. I think it was 1 month in, we all got called in for a random drug test, hair sampling.
Mm-hmm.
They had us sit in a chair and had them take a clipping out of everybody's hair from the entire team that got brought over.
Yeah.
I did not understand what was going on because that is not my world.
Right.
I was like, what are they, why would, I don't know. I was the only one that was not fired.
Oh, wow. So you were the last man standing out of the entire sales staff?
What happened? Yeah, apparently they found some drugs that somebody left in the customer bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And a customer saw the person that came out of the stall and so told the general manager, the owner, I guess. And he was like, nope, we're not doing this. And had the entire group of people that came over because it was part of that team. I wasn't doing drugs. Yeah. I was not, again, I was the oddball. I was the weird one.
Yeah.
I was the only one not let go.
So you were like the sales department.
Well, there were a couple of salespeople that were there prior to the team coming over.
Yeah.
And another manager that was there that wasn't part of that team, but everybody that came from the other dealership, me and about, I think it was 9 other people.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
All of them. but me. Gone. And I'm like, again, that was not my world. I was not meant to be there. It was, as they say, God gives us a path, and we don't know why we're on that path sometimes.
Yeah.
But then we suddenly go, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
I was put on a path that was not, it was, I'm looking, going, I don't belong here. And then suddenly now here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
It is wild. I'm telling you, so many goofy stories.
So you get it, fast forward and getting back to on track here. We keep, here we are 40 minutes and we're still talking about the car business because it was that much fun, guys.
I think
it
I
really
warned
was.
you. I said, if we talk about the car business, I don't know where it's going to go.
I know. But that's the thing is that, not to have, it's tough to ask for empathy for people in the car business because, that's not like they go out of their way to deserve it, but it is a grueling job.
It is a horribly grueling job.
Yeah.
And you have to have a certain type of, there are certain personalities that will fit into that and certain ones would absolutely not.
I talked more about the car business in the last probably 10 years than I have in radio. Maybe it's because I'm doing this. This is like keeping my toe in the water for radio with podcasting and stuff like that. But radio, I think I probably got out of my system. It took me 17 years, but it was one of those things that it was just, I call it my college education was the car business. So valuable.
I think you and I would agree that you could pretty much make a sitcom or a TV show or one of those dramedy, documentary, whatever things about pretty much any car dealership. I don't know if it's still that way today because I've been so far removed for so many years. I don't know what the culture is like anymore. I have virtually no connections to any of the dealerships anymore. I don't know.
It feels like it's been very homogenized. I would understand that. Yeah.
It's a lot more plug and play with a lot of the technology. You don't need the personalities as much that you had the crazy personalities that were you've got the
the internet, I think, did that because
I'm not against it. I'm not for it. I don't know. But I again, the personalities were entertaining. There was no day that there was not some entertainment.
Yeah. Well, because they were the talent. Like I saw so many similarities in radio and the car business because the sales staff were like the air staff on a radio station. They had to have personality, the gift of gab, the ability to sell on some level. I think air personalities and car salespeople were alike in the sense that they forgot when they were salespeople because when you're on the air, you're asked to sell events and sponsorships and stuff like that. Typically, they're reading a card or an advertisement or something like that and trying to use their voice to
word
sell.
tracks of some sort.
Right. And then you have salespeople that have to commit these things to memory and have that intrinsic ability to bob and weave and be able to, conduct a conversation that leads to an end zone. Okay. But they would always forget how to sell when it came to management because management would always sell to you. This is the way you're going to do it.
Everybody was always selling everybody.
Yeah.
That was the other thing that blew my mind, which is why, again, one of the things that helped me transition to what I'm doing now is I watched everything. Everything was a battle. The sales desk was battling the salesperson, who was battling the client, who was battling the sales desk, who was also battling with the finance department to get the deal done. And the finance department was battling with the customer to get more money down or to change the payments, who was battling with the bank to try and get the deal bought. It was just constant fighting.
Yeah.
And I was like, there has to be a better way. This makes no sense. Can't we all just get along?
And then you throw the internet in, you got to battle the internet.
Right. Yeah. The internet pricing of other dealerships and some other dealerships doing unscrupulous stuff to mess with your business, which we had happen a few times. It's just craziness.
One of the things that you told me while I was there, when I think, because me, I had one foot out the door right from the get-go because I always had the what if factor that because I had come out of radio, got into something else in the collision industry, that didn't work out, which meant I had to go, I'm like, now I have to do this. I got to still feed my family. But there was that little notion that what if I just did what I did with voiceover, audio and video production, whatever that looked like, all my skill sets in radio where I was the man and just do it on my own. And I was always kind of contending with that until you just said, look, dude, you either got to it's not going to work out until you just decide to commit to this. And I'm like, dang it, you're right. I got to do that. So that's when I did. It was probably 3 months in or so. And then I started talking about, well, maybe, I started getting maybe a little bit bougie in my head. And I was like, well, maybe I need to go to Lexus. They're opening up the new dealership up the hill. And you were like, look, PJ, she went to BMW and she starved. Don't do it. And I was like, you have all that kind of stuff as well. And I was like, okay, And then I had a customer that was in the car business once upon a time. Those customers are always fun. And
yeah, I'm one of those now.
Yeah, I know.
I was, when the last car I bought, Stacy looked at me and went, you changed.
Why?
Because when the dude came and sat down in front of me, he was like, I said, look, I'm going to go ahead and let you know. I was in the auto industry for a very long time. I know you're going to do this. This is what's going to happen. You're going to come back and say this. Then you're going to go to the manager, and the manager is going to say, come back and say this. Then this is going to happen. I've gone through everything. I've done every position.
Just cut to the
Please
chase.
save you and me a lot of headache.
Yeah.
And he went, okay. And they went and did exactly what I said they were going to do. And as soon as they sat back down and started, I went, all right, it's on. I just, it's a rare side of me. But at that point, I tried to warn him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I had a customer that came in. He was in the car business. We went on a test drive. I was still very green at the time, still figuring out my way, but I'm understanding the road to the sale, the fundamentals. As in voiceover, I talk about all the time, learning the fundamentals, learning how to interpret a script, figuring out what is assertive versus suggestive, those kinds of tones. A lot of these things I teach. And I said, the biggest thing about, voiceover is emulation, which in the sales business, you do a lot of that as well. You're looking at the more experienced people, emulating what they say, hearing what they say, maybe reshaping the words so you can sleep at night. Because some of the things that I heard said in that business were like, okay, I would never tell somebody that because that's just an outright lie. And I didn't like that. So I would figure out a way to just very convincingly, it was truthful. For example, I heard people say, oh yeah, you can totally get 0%. Like, you don't know that. Why would you tell somebody that? You don't know. Did you pull their credit? Are you the bank? You don't know that. So why not just tell, I don't know. I'm not the bank. I haven't, but would you like to submit a credit application just to make sure and see where you land? Even then we don't know until we have a car.
Well, the problem is, even if those people who did totally mislead somebody,
right,
eventually it's going to be obvious.
It is.
And now you're fighting an uphill battle against somebody.
You punched yourself in the face.
You've destroyed their trust in you.
Right.
You've misled them, which is something you shouldn't do to them to begin with.
Yeah.
And now you've got the fight.
Right.
It doesn't need to be a fight.
It doesn't need to be. So anyway, this guy tells me, we go out on a test drive. I conduct myself the way I'm doing it, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, I was in the business. I'm like, oh, great. And, he tells you, you're in the wrong place. Okay. What do you mean? You need to be selling Highline. Really? Okay. Every time I go to, we're in a dealership group that owns a lot of other dealerships in the market here. A lot of them are Highline dealerships. Every time I go there, I feel like I'm a, square peg in a round hole. I don't feel like I match. He's like, no, dude, you could totally do it. Really? He says, yeah, you're conducting yourself well. It's better money. It's better hours, yada, yada. I'm like, and that was what made me rethink. I think that afternoon after that guy was so good. I actually looked up and saw that Mercedes had an opening. I
remember when you had that, we had that conversation. I will tell you we've been friends pretty much since day one, right? Because we have very similar personalities. We get along very well and understand each other well. It was never about ability or talent. It was the fact that there was so much business going through the dealerships, like a Honda or a Toyota dealership. There was so many opportunities. And that's why I said, if you are both feet in, you're going to be attacking it, which is why I fortunately was doing very well. I was like, all right, this is where I am right now. I'm going to just keep hammering it. And when you go to Highline, there's again, like what I talked about going to Porsche. I mean, your clientele went from, 100 people a day coming into a dealership to like, there's different
7 nuances to going into a dealership like that. I would say going from a Honda Porsche.
Personality-wise, you have zero. You have a very outgoing personality. Yeah, and that's great for anybody who is going to need to talk to another human being and not want to be totally put off, right?
Right. But to me, like right now, looking at it, it's like riding a bike. I could probably be plugged in and just do my thing and remember all the different muscle memories, if you will, you know. But this guy, what scared me about Mercedes was like wondering if I had the confidence. Confidence is the memory of success. And I wasn't exactly successful at the Honda dealership. I had come off a really, October for me that year was just awful. November was decent. And I think December I was on par to probably do my first 20 car month. But that's the month I left. So I left halfway through, which is stupid. But looking back on it, I'm glad I did because it really kind of put me in the frame of mind at Christmas time in a Highline dealership, seeing people that were being gifted cars, people with the, you know, money at the wazoo. It was really eye-opening because same fundamental process, different customer. You know, it wasn't, the fight wasn't there because they knew what they wanted. They knew they could afford it. And there wasn't too much back and forth on the price. It was just pick out what you want and let me see how I can get this done for you. That was it. Honda, you had to contend with you were fighting with other Honda dealerships. We forget about that. You were also fighting with bad credit, you know, and people that just, like you said, they were just looking, I just need transportation. These people were looking, this is a pinnacle moment for me. Or this is my daily driver. This is what I expect. You know, it was a different kind of animal, but I knew because of my background dealing with what I dealt with most of my life with people like that, I'd be good. And that build, when I got there, that's when my confidence was like, okay, I can do this, you know. But with Porsche, going from Honda, the Porsche is more of an exotic level of product.
It's a pure passion aspect or a pure treat yourself kind of thing, I guess.
Right.
There's two very divergent roads. It's the I've made it. It's like the Rolex of cars, I guess.
Yeah.
Or the you just really love what a vehicle can do if engineered to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Mercedes, you had people that just wanted to get into a CLA or maybe even a C-Class that was somewhat affordable, but I'm driving that logo. That's what that means to me.
Well, they're all good. I mean, there's not really a car brand out there that doesn't make a good car. It doesn't matter what it is. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in business, right? Remember Daewoo?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, not in business.
We actually did a promotion with them in my radio station.
Actually, the best one is Yugo.
Yugo? Yeah.
Remember Yugos?
I do.
It was something like 40 to 60% of them when they were delivered at dealerships, when they were taken off the trucks, one tire wasn't touching the ground because just the act of tying them down to the truck bent the frames. So they wheeled off the truck with, one whoppy-jawed wheel off the ground. That's they're
great.
not around anymore, right? So anything that's around it's going to be pretty much a good vehicle. It doesn't matter. And now with technology, performance has changed so much anyway. They're all good.
What do you, if you had to go back, would you go back to a Porsche dealership? Or what, if you had your druthers? Let's say you're in your get-to years and you just need to, do something to prevent yourself from going crazy. Would you go back? What would you want to do?
The only way you're going to get me back in the car business is if you knock me unconscious and tape me to a seat in a dealership.
Really?
Yeah. I always enjoyed the interactions with the people, the family that you create there, because you were literally there all the time.
Yeah.
Everybody was there all the time. So you really got to make great friendships.
Yeah.
But I don't miss anything else.
See, I would fast forward 5 to 7 years, right?
Mm.
And everything that I want to happen has come to fruition. I'm in my get-to years, right? I get to do these things. It's something that I would consider, but I would do it on my own terms.
I can appreciate.
Can you imagine if you didn't have to sell? How much better you would do if you didn't have your back wasn't up against the wall.
At Porsche, there was a guy that used to be a NASA physicist that was one of the 4 people amongst us that were there handling clients, and he was just didn't care.
Yeah,
but he loved the vehicles and loved talking with people.
And how did he do?
He was the top guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he just loved what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just loved the vehicles.
He didn't care, if a manager
and he was also,
threatened him.
because he was older and retired and an engineer, he had the engineering mind and it was brutally, brutally honest with people, which I used to it was entertaining. It was very entertaining. Because you want to talk about throwing people a curveball, you watch people go, what? Like it's just what would come out of his mouth. I'm like, dude.
That's like Roman. Remember Roman?
Yes. Roman was cool. I like him.
He's so cool. He's one of the, we still keep in touch. And every time we talk, we'll go a couple of months without talking, but we'll pick up from where we left off.
Where is he now?
He's at GMC.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Right on. Tell him I say.
Wall trip.
I mean, I loved vehicles. I love vehicles. I still love vehicles.
I do too.
But I'm going to do what I do now until the hard drive gives out, man.
I understand that.
There is nothing that would take me away from this except for the CPU crashing. I love it too much.
Well, good.
Because my degree was in psychology.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was always the kid that the other kids came to with problems for some reason and just told me their concerns and personal lives. I mean, I've always been the person that people came to help them solve problems. I don't know why.
Father Mike.
I did not ask for it.
Yeah.
But I loved being able to help people. And there's a saying I heard a number of years back that has stuck with me that I will never forget, which is be a lamp, a lifeboat, or a ladder to everyone you meet.
Ooh.
And I love that because that is how I've always tried to operate. I've never tried to deviate from that.
Right.
And I always felt that I was doing that in the car business because somebody's going to sell them a car. At least if I'm doing it, I know that I'm not the guy that's getting his hair clipped and about to get booted out of a dealership for doing something wrong or X, Y, and Z. I'm just going to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
And they need a car. I'll help them. That's where I landed. So I'm going to be as my dad, who has given me so much great advice throughout the years, said, if you're going to be a homeless person, be the best homeless person you could possibly be. Like be the shiniest, most polished, most, it doesn't matter what you do. Be the best of it you could possibly be. Don't do it half-ass.
Right.
Put your heart into it. Put everything you. That's a weird example, but it does make sense. I mean, when I was in the car business, I had a Honda Civic that had been in the hail.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. It was in the hailstorm in Knoxville that destroyed cars. And it looked like the Tennessee Titans had got upset with it. Like it's just every panel was just dented.
You had talked about it looked like a golf ball.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. It was more aerodynamic. I got better gas mileage. But I was out waxing it, and I had people go, "Why?" I'm like, "Because it's mine, and it represents me. And if it's going to be mine, I'm going to make it the best I possibly can." That was the shiniest golf ball looking car you'd ever seen, buddy. I sold it for 3 times what I bought it for years later. Because I kept it nice, because I cared for it, and because I put my all into it. And that's how I look at everything.
It was a trade. I was there when that happened, I think. Yeah, you just wanted something that was a daily driver.
I was getting 11 miles per gallon with my Nova.
Yeah.
No, it was the Fairlane at that point. I had the 66 Fairlane, which was about 11 miles per gallon. And I was like, it would be nice to have air conditioning and get something where every time I pass a gas station, I'm not going, I wonder how much the gas is there. It's just like it. So yeah, I bought that little Civic. Dude, I loved that car. I had it for years and it just looked like it had a really bad day one day.
I remember that.
It was awesome.
So with that being said, man, so you do wealth management. Everyone should go talk to you. And thanks for being on.
Absolutely. What are we, an hour in and not even discussed? I love it.
Does your garage door sound like this? If it does, it's screaming for help. Call Incredible Doors, 931-348-DOOR. We're making garage doors in Murray and Williamson counties work better and sound better. We just make them incredible again. Go to IncredibleDoors.com or call 931-348-DOOR. Follow us on Facebook for specials on maintenance visits, keypads, and other items. 931-348-DOOR. IncredibleDoors.com.
Okay, so now we got to pivot. We have to talk about what you're doing now. You briefly brought it up, and
I don't know. I think we should just let people guess after this.
Yeah, right. So this kind of parlayed into helping people with their very sensible approach to handling their finances, and thinking differently about money. How did I remember back in the day when you did this and we were trying to figure out how to succinctly position what it is that you do? Do you remember what I came up with? I can't for the life of me.
Well, there were a number of different things. You've always been giving me different ideas of how to approach it, and I appreciate that. You're really good at that. I am not, because I am not a marketer. I do not. I'm just like, I do this, and this, and this, and it doesn't sound catchy or fancy. There were several things. One was that I am everybody's financial proctologist. Which I was not. I was like, I am not going to use that.
But that's what you did. Yeah,
I know. It's so terrible.
I think you give a financial anal probe.
Yeah, that's great. That's exactly how it would go down in history.
I can picture you with the picture of you putting the rubber glove on.
A green one with money dollar bills on. But I mean, it is true. So macroeconomic financial advisory, which we are looking at every single thing that money touches. It is not money gathering, or as I call it, money gathering, which is hey, how much can you afford to invest? What's your risk tolerance? Sign here. There's no guarantees. Off you go. Mm-hmm. I don't do that. I don't like to do that. Assets under management is something we handle, but it's such a small portion of all the things that we do that we don't focus on that. Macroeconomic, we have to look at how everything works together. I was talking to a client earlier today, and I explained that the first thing we need to do is inspect the links of the chain, right? You've heard the saying, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link.
Right.
Okay. Well, nobody ever inspects the links of people's financial system. They're just trying to sell them another link to add to the chain, or they're trying to sell them a new chain. Well, the reality is you've already got stuff. It's doing things. Is it doing what you want it to do? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? So working through and actually examining every one of the links of a person's financial chain already and figuring out what's going on. Let's get it right. This is a broken weld. This is a problem. That's not going to be a very good chain. So if we get all those links solved and fix the problems you currently have, patch the holes in the boat you're already in, then we can move forward. And that's just how we approach it. And I'm so I could not have been led to a better opportunity than where I am, because that's how Dan has been doing it for over 30 years. And it was like it was built for me.
Yeah.
So when I got in years and years ago, was it 10, 11 years ago? 10 years ago. It was 10 years ago.
Was it 15?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Immediately I was like, because I was a client first, because he was the one I had talked with. I was recommended to him. And when we walked through it, I'm a sponge for that stuff, man. I was just like, this is amazing.
Yeah. And
it made sense. And I am an extremely critical individual. I will check everything out. Skeptical. I'm a skeptic. So I do my own research on things because I like to understand things. I come from research background. I have I was all into chemistry and biology and psychology. I want to do the research and figure out what's going on, break it down, solve the puzzle. And everything he told me was 100% accurate. And I was like, wow, this is wild.
Yeah.
And it just made sense. And from there,
it really is, because I expected it to be like what you're talking about. Let me find a product. Let me find your risk tolerance.
That's what most of it is.
Right.
And
I'm indemnified in case it goes south, yada, yada, yada. He is really looking at your financial house and making sure it's in order before you do anything.
Yeah.
And, from insurances to, protections and things of that nature, not just for, life insurance, but to other types of insurance and protections that go into your life.
Well, I walk through since the beginning, we walk through clients' auto insurance, homeowners insurance, umbrella insurance,
mm-hmm.
and we didn't even do that in-house. That was not part of our firm.
Right.
But we are licensed in it because we need to understand it. We need to make sure it's right, because almost nobody came to us with it right. Almost nobody.
Yeah.
Even insurance, we have insurance agents and financial advisors that are clients of our firm.
Yeah.
Because they're in a different area of focus than we are. We have to look at how it all works together and how it actually functions as a whole to fit somebody's financial system. So we were doing things that make us $0 because it just needs to be right.
Yeah.
And that was the first several meetings with clients, was just fixing problems they had that has nothing to do with us. It just should be right.
What's the most frustrating aspect of what you do in terms of competition? Like, what are you saying? Like, you get somewhat ramped up when you're hearing you mentioned it in the past, people being marketed to.
Yeah, I am so anti-marketing. Again, I understand marketing is to get somebody's business that they have blood, sweat, and tears in and care about in front of somebody else in most cases. But also, marketing has also been usurped by the psychological side of things of how can you manipulate somebody into parting them from their money.
Yeah.
And I see that on a daily basis with clients. I see decisions that are, I mean, think about how many different things you're advertised to just from the moment you wake up.
Oh, I know.
Your phone has it on the back of the phone, what type of phone, or on the front of the phone, what it is. Your alarm clock, if you still have one of those things, now it's the phone, but your alarm clock had the name brand on it. You go in and get your toothbrush with the name brand on it. You look at your Kohler or Moel or whatever knob for your faucet. You turn that on. Every single thing you have has a name brand on it.
Podcast titles. Yes, wrong camera. There we go.
Yeah. Again, it's not that it's always wrong, but you're just constantly being bombarded. So what I've taught people, the 4 basic rules of finance, and this will come back to answering I'm doing the weave.
Yeah.
The weave. The 4 basic rules of finance, that if nobody ever sits and meets with me, if nobody ever meets with me more than once, if they take this and go forward with it, it will help them in everything. If we're to create a business, let's say we create a bank. What do we need? What's the first thing we need?
Building.
No, money.
An idea.
You get the building for money. Don't start messing with me, man. You know this because we've talked about it before. You're going to start throwing me on these curveballs and I'm going to be out in left field looking for clovers in a minute. You can just throw me off. Yeah, no, the financial institutions, everything wants your money. Every business wants your money. That's what keeps them in business. Okay, well, how do we get their money? Well, we give them incentives of some form or fashion. So for a bank, we give them a 0.25% on their checking account or savings account to have their money with us, or a free toaster if you open an account, or something like that. That used to be a big thing. Okay, so we want their money. Next, do we want it once, or do we want it on a systematic and regular ongoing basis? We definitely want it on that systematic basis because we want it to happen all the time. We want to be able to consistently expect it, which is why we've gone to such, if you look at our culture now, how many subscriptions do people have? Everything is subscription-based, right?
It is.
It's a recurring revenue stream that you don't have to think about anymore. So they want your money. They want it on a systematic and regular ongoing basis. Do they want to, if we want that money, do we want to hang on to it for a very long time or for a very short time? Long. As long as possible, because if we hold somebody else's money, we get to benefit from the money, right? So any financial institution wants the money, wants to hang on to it forever because they get to enjoy it. So when the client wants the money back, should we just give it all back at once, or put penalties and fees on it so that they can only get little itty bitty chunks back? Well, obviously the latter, because that's going to keep the money with the institution for an even longer period of time by making people afraid to touch their own money. That is what is happening to everybody everywhere, and almost every single commercial you look at is they want your money, they want it on a systematic and regular ongoing basis, they want to hang on to it for as long as possible, and when you want it back, they want to give it to you in little itty-bitty chunks. Why? Every one of those rules benefits that business. So we have to explain and teach clients that you are that same business. You are a business, and you should be able to do the same thing and use the financial institutions for your benefit rather than the other way around. And that's just not what people are sold. They're sold a bill of goods, and they're sold a methodology that benefits somebody else.
Does the Federal Reserve, IRS, come into play with that? Because I think it does.
I would say that the IRS wants your money, wants it on a systematic and regular ongoing basis, wants to hang on to it for as long as possible, and ultimately never give it back. Now, it's not just the IRS, but it's government in general. I'm not anti-government, but they do not create things other than laws that help separate you from your money because they have to use the money to do other things. They don't create the money themselves.
What kind of other things?
How long is this podcast going to be? About 6 hours? How much time you got? Let's see how many different people we can squirrel out. It's that leads me to the thing that bothers me the most is the fact that people are manipulated into being separated from their money for motives that do not benefit the client themselves. It's the movie The Matrix. Everybody's a battery for the machine rather than understanding that they are a machine and can use the other machines as batteries.
There's been a lot of turning of the tides when it comes to empowering people, especially with social media, almost to a fault. Like the pendulum has gone to the extreme other way. A lot of business gurus, things about people like that. But this kind of education, I think, is still lacking. People are really programmed to think a certain way about their money, and dangerously so. The whole notion of even buying a house has been reframed in the notion of it's the American dream. Well, no, it's not. The real estate and the companies and the banks and the mortgage companies decided to paint that picture. The American dream is being able to create your own being, have the freedom to pursue happiness. That's the American dream, whatever that may look like.
Whatever you want it to be, if you are given the opportunity to pursue it.
Right.
Totally agree with that.
And, it's not home ownership because as you and I have discussed offline before, and there's several videos you can find on my Instagram. The first one that's pinned is a clip that's like, you never own your house. As long as there are property taxes, you never own your house.
Correct.
Okay. And
if you think you do, just stop paying your taxes for a little while and see what happens.
And I love the comment sections that light up every time I say this. Well, who's supposed to pay for police? I understand. I'm not saying that taxes aren't needed and
Correct.
public services need to be funded. I'm not saying that at all. Let me say that again and look straight at the camera. I am not saying that at all. The method by which they collect these taxes was never what the forefathers wanted. If they were alive today and saw the amount of taxes we pay, they'd be like, why are you guys not burning Washington to the ground?
If you don't understand that that's human nature or nature in general, understand the idea of cancer. The whole reason cancer occurs is because of the multitude of times that a cell reproduces and multiplies, right? Eventually, if you keep building and growing and building and growing and building and growing and repeating it, eventually you're going to get some flaws or some bad stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's just gone for such a long time and not been kept in check.
Status quo.
Well, yes.
Right?
Yes.
So then what I try to impart to people is that next time you're paying your property taxes, understand you own nothing. You own the equity in your home. That's about it. If you even have it.
I will say it's better than in England, which if you own your home, it's only the building, not the land it's on.
Oh, really?
Because the crown owns that. So you can have a building, but you don't get to decide if you can dig into the ground to do anything else with it or anything else until the crown authority has been asked and allow you to do it with all these stipulations. But yeah, you don't own the dirt. It's very different.
I saw a post the other day on a Facebook from a friend of mine, Chuck. Took a picture with his dad, them getting lunch. He's been spending a lot of time with his dad, who's elderly. And he says, we just, went to the city hall or paid my dad's property taxes. Now we're getting some lunch. I'm like, dude, that guy should not be paying for a good property tax. I'm sorry.
I'm sure he's paid a fair amount over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, it's so sad. A majority of people do not think that way. And it's frustrating. And when you tell them that, you come off like a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. Again, I think there is a need for some taxes.
Of course.
There are a need for assistance in different ways.
How are we supposed to pay for it? I get it. Okay? I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying we're not supposed to fund public services. But let's remind ourselves what the government was there to be put there for. Protect our asses and build some frickin' highways. Okay? That's it. That's it. Okay? If I choose to send my money elsewhere, that should be my choice. Not guilty until proven innocent. I mean, think about this. Actually, this has changed for me early on. 10 years ago, if I were to get a letter from the IRS, put yourself in this mindset, not just you, Mike, but anybody listening, put yourself in this mindset. What's the feeling you get when you get a letter from the IRS? Is it dread? Is it, oh crap? Is it your stomach jumping into your throat? Okay.
It's just, what do they want now?
Right. Oh,
how much do they want, or what do they want?
What did they arbitrarily decide that I owe? Maybe once out of every 100 times, 100 times, not 100. Will they say, oh, we made a mistake. We owe you money. No, that letter to, we made a mistake and we decided to change your return.
So, Jim, could we say that this is something that may bother you a little?
Well, because it's happened.
I know.
I remember the language of getting a letter like that.
Mm-hmm.
We've elected to change your return for that year, and you now owe.
Mm-hmm.
Is the language that was like, oh, really?
Like,
how convenient is that for you?
Oops, we need more of your money.
I'm going to start going to all my clients and saying, I made a mistake on my billing and you now owe me money. You think I'm going to get a phone call?
Oh, it's going to go great.
They're the only, dare I say, business out there that can do that. And it could scare the crap out of you by doing it.
They're not the only ones. Anybody, any in a position of authority or power that can negatively impact you if you don't,
right,
has the ability to negotiate away your money.
But the bottom line is, when you get a message like that from the IRS, your intrinsic initial feeling, that's the problem. Okay? That's why I'm loving what's happening these days. Loving it. Oh, man. Yeah. Burn it to the ground.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting ideas floating out there. So we'll see.
There is. You're being so politically sensitive right now. I understand. But to me, my give a damn has been busted, because the notion of getting a letter like that and the feeling that you have is, oh crap. Now what?
Yeah, it's rarely where you go, oh good, the IRS is sending me something.
Look at the font they use. The font of the IRS. If you look at the envelope of an IRS letter, the font is meant to be intimidating.
Cue throbbing forehead vessel now.
Right. Okay.
Jim's at second gear.
It is. I mean, just look at the psychology in the font itself. I believe it's Trajan font, which is like used in documentaries and like these epic tales, Babylon, these you could see the letters in gold, and it's got an embossment to it. I believe it's a derivative of Trajan font, which is supposed to elicit a feeling of, ooh, authoritative.
Is that where another font is hidden inside that font? No, that's Trojan font. Sorry.
Trojan font. This is Trajan font. Almost every Christian movie out there in their titling has got Trajan font. I'm not kidding.
I've never paid much attention to fonts other than wingdings.
Look at it next time. Look at the IRS font.
All right. Well, hopefully I won't have to. I have not seen anything from them. I don't plan on it.
Fonts themselves have a voice. Literally. I've done this before, and I've actually, in a car with other people, said, okay, what's the voice of that font? And they're like, oh, it's kind of aloof. IRS is not Comic Sans, right?
It's not kind of
It's
aloof.
not Comic Sans. It's not in lowercase where it's like IRS. Oh, hey, it's IRS. Hey, guys.
Maybe that would help.
It's IRS. IRS. We are here to take, or else. Was it somebody? It was a comedian. Or maybe one of these videos that went around and said, the only organization that says, hey, every year you have to reconcile what you made and then tell us how much you owe us. And then we might check on that and to see if you're correct. And if you aren't, let's lick our chops.
It is funny if you think about it. You do all the work. You do all the calculations.
That's
if
right.
You're not going to do it. You pay somebody else to do all the work and all the calculations so that we get money.
That's right. Make sure that you gave us the right amount of money.
If you're gonna do the calculations to see if we're right anyway, how about we just give you all the info? You figure it out.
Right.
If you're gonna take my money, you figure it out.
Yeah. The obligation is on you.
Yep.
But they put it on us, and we're all suckers for it because we're all just like, okay, I'll just do it. Oh my gosh. I got a refund. Yay. It's like, okay.
Well, not everybody does it. Wesley Snipes and Aretha Franklin didn't, but
Well, good for them.
didn't work out so well.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If you don't, it's literally, if you don't pay up to the mafia, we do everything short of, putting you in cement shoes and dropping you in a river.
They want your money on a systematic and regular.
How do we get on this tangent?
I don't know. I saw your face turn about 3 shades darker red, and I was like, let's just let him run with it.
This is good. Jim's on a tear. But isn't that, but those of you who are listening, think about that. Think about that. The next time you get a letter in the mail, look at the font. Hear the voice in that font. It's not, hey, guys. It's the IRS.
Is it bad that I think everything I get out of the mailbox, I just walk right over to the trash can and drop it in it?
Especially Valpak. You
I
ever
don't
get Valpaks?
I like every day.
Do you?
I get Anderson Windows wanting to give me, they have spent enough money on advertisements that they could have put a set of windows in my house for free by now. And I'm like, what? Stop.
Right.
Yeah. Again, marketing.
Marketing, absolutely. All those things have feelings and emotions attached to them on purpose, right? And you have Valpak, good point that we brought up, an envelope filled with coupons that you're probably going to throw out. Somebody spent money on this. Somebody convinced somebody else this is a good idea.
They have good marketing, apparently.
Right. Put your business on the coupon that falls somewhere in this pile of stuff in this envelope that is either going to be thrown away or used for kindling. And then maybe the 1 or 2% chance someone's actually going to open. I actually do open them only in the spirit of figuring out who the hell is falling for this. Mm-hmm. And it's typically window companies like irrigation, landscaping, lawn care, a bunch of other companies, stuff like that, and they're very highly transactional. Sometimes you might find a good deal in there.
I was going to say, there has to be value to the value pack.
Right.
Or it would not be around still. So I'm sure there's a lot of benefits that some people get from it, and that's fine. It's just pretty much everything that I get in my mailbox. In most cases, I'm just like, nah.
We've got a giant sun, like a lens flare happening on your camera here because the sun is setting.
Oh, yeah.
It's hitting my camera.
Oh, cool.
Let me see if I can
give me a halo.
This is one of those episodes, guys. I'm sorry. And it's diminishing. Oh, the more I turn it to the right. Okay. So, but it looks weird. Yeah. It's like a big giant ghost orb that's on the image. Oh, let's have to leave it that way.
We can switch to a different one or something.
Okay, hold on. This is what happens. We do these things in real time. I'm going to switch you to camera 2. There we go.
Is that this one?
That's this one over here.
All right, cool.
This is a podcast where real things happen in real time. These are true, naturally flowing conversations, real conversations.
I have the benefit of already going through this type of experience with us in our other podcast, so it's great.
Right. Yeah, we're here in this room quite on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Any other information you want to share regarding the IRS?
I think I covered everything. I think you did a much better job than me.
Did you? Is there anything you want to share with the audience about what you do and how you can help them?
I mean, what I do is not what most out there do. In fact, I don't know really of any other that does.
Right.
And I'm saddened by that. I would rather have more competition with other people doing exactly what I do because that means more people are going to be helped. And
it's easier for you to differentiate, though.
It is.
But at the same time, and this is something that you actually experienced when you got started, was getting people to, like, they thought, okay, this is too good to be true.
Well, most people, whenever I said I'm a financial advisor, They'd go, oh, well, when I get some money, I'll come talk to you. Because what do they think? It's I want your money. What's your risk tolerance? Sign here, there's no guarantees. Or I only work with you when you have money because I care about the money. Because that's what our system has created, because in most cases, that's the truth. But the reality is I care about the people. I'm not touching their money for a good amount of time. Like in some cases, I have clients that I've worked with for years where we've made no investment moves. I'm just helping get them onto a position that fixes them. Like you've heard of the Ramsey baby steps or the whatever else. And let's just get you fixed the way you need to be fixed, because you're different than everybody else, right? Everybody's fingerprint is different. Their financial system, their life is different than everybody else's. So how about we work with your system to make sure that anything that can be adjusted is adjusted. The money will come.
Yeah.
So if I care about the people, I'm solving the people's problems. If I care about the money, I'm solving money.
Guys, it could be as low. We've had friends that have complained about not having money, but yet they have vices that are to the tune of several $100s a month. That, like, we're not telling you to give them up, but if you just make a few adjustments in your spend on those, think of how much money you're going to be able to free up that can go to something that's actually fruitful and productive 5 years from now.
I've had married couples that have come in that have two different AT&T accounts for their phones. They each have their own account for their phone.
Like, what are you doing?
And they had redundant subscriptions. Go figure. Because again, you set it and forget it. There was something else that was along those lines, but it's like if we just work on some efficiency strategies, lo and behold, there's money.
Yeah.
Which you need first because you don't have any. So, I mean, I work with people to help get them to save money, get it to save correctly, understand why you're saving. Most people don't even understand why they would need to save money, why or how to save money. But I mean, I don't know. It's not complicated what I do, but it's way, 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 way more work because I'm not focused on one area that makes me money. I'm focused on the whole, right? So you look at all the parts of the body and inspect every part of the body to make sure it's right, not just come in and I try to sell you a glove.
Right.
Hey, your hand will be better.
What is your take? And I already know this, we've talked about it before, but for those listening, you see a lot of upheaval that's happening in financial markets these days. Just to kind of cut to the chase, you have all this, the crypto conversations that have been happening. Bitcoin, especially leading the charge. They are, I've always said crypto and Bitcoin as it stands right now is the internet circa 1996 or so. I actually saw something the other day and I wanted to show it to you because I make this comparison a lot. And it was exactly what I'm always talking about, and hopefully I can find it. There it is. It's an adoption chart, Bitcoin's adoption path. Right now, 3% adoption with Bitcoin. Bitcoin in 2025 is similar to online banking in 1996, social media in 2005, or internet in 1990. So I'm late. You know, I always talk about it as like the internet circa 1996. This is saying it's internet circa 1990, where nobody heard about it because the adoption's only at 3%. But you remember when the internet came out and all of us started really mass adopting. You remember how you got on the internet at first? How was it? Not how was the internet?
I'm not making that sound.
How did you do it? But you remember through which? What was the tool that we all used?
Oh, it was a home PC, big old block, and then a modem attached to it with the AOL Online.
Right. I remember how we all got that.
Or America Online. Through a CD.
A CD that was like in cereal boxes. Yep. You remember getting them in cereal boxes?
No, I don't. That was not a Cracker Jack toy I ever got, but
I remember it was on the back of cereal boxes, or they came in the mail.
It was just free in the mail all the time, and then you signed up
just to get people on. Right. And then you had internet service, ISPs that popped up. That was a business for a season. But man, what if that's the case? And then here we are 10, 15 years from now. Now this is how we transact. Because the dollar let's be honest, kind of in trouble.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It is.
No.
I'm going to argue with you now.
I know.
It's in trouble.
So unlike our normal interactions.
It's in trouble. Come on.
It's not.
You don't think the dollar's in trouble?
No, I think we've got challenges like we have always had challenges. The dollar's gone through numerous iterations. It's gone through numerous adjustments, and we've gone through, as a society, numerous inflations, very rarely deflations, but deflations. We've had all kinds of...
But again, throughout human history or recent history?
The only reason the physical dollar would be in trouble is because we all allow everything to go to digital, and I hope to God that never happens.
But what's backing the dollar?
Well, obviously there could still be. They're trying to figure out about Fort Knox right now.
It's mutual trust. What is a method of which we transact? A dollar it's one step away from barter. That's why we have the dollar. It is bartering in just paper form. Right. You're just putting a middleman in between the bartering, basically. But there was an attachment to, we had the gold standard once upon a time. Then they got rid of that, which allowed them to print it out of control, which is why we have inflation.
Unfortunate.
Right. So when you have more of something...
It's confidence in the U.S. and our ability to do things, and we are still by far in a position that's not.
It's further than that, though. What is the dollar? It's a mutually agreed upon way to I see the value in this because we both agree on it, right? World reserve currencies only last about 100 years. The dollar's had about 90 years. Mm-hmm. Just saying. Not trying to convince you.
I'm not a betting man.
Right.
But I would take your bet.
Yeah? You think it's going to last longer than that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, people who said the same thing about the internet. I just don't get it. It's a fad.
Well, I'm not saying that Bitcoin isn't going to last. I'm not saying that Bitcoin isn't a valuable thing. I'm not saying that crypto in general isn't a valuable thing, although I will say that if there is one that at least has protections in place to the best of people's knowledge,
it's Bitcoin.
It's Bitcoin.
Why is that?
Well, it's the blockchain backing the ability to... First off, there's a limited amount.
Exactly.
Secondly, it can't be hacked.
Right.
Supposedly. Now, we have found out that other companies that hold the Bitcoin can be hacked, and then it can get taken from them, which is
recently they had the Ethereum hack that happened, 1.4 billion. Mm-hmm. But that was Ethereum.
It is. Yeah. If somebody finds a way, the reality is criminals are going to find a way to do darn near anything. That's just how it is. If they want it bad enough, they're going to figure out a way. And I promise you, there are people working nonstop to figure out a way to take people's Bitcoin. Just like they're trying to figure out ways to take your actual dollars. Just like they're trying to figure out a way to get your Social Security and whatever else. So it's part of life of having a society that has the tendencies of good and evil. The dollar, as far as I'm concerned, as long as we continue to have paper dollars, I think is extremely valuable because you're the one who's complaining about the IRS, and I agree with you in most of those cases, but understand, what does the IRS want? They want the ability to track 100% of every single cent you spend in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
So if you give in and have it all in online trackable currencies that have to go through sites in every single online trackable method, you lose. But I'm not saying we're supposed to hide things from the government, but I do know that if you have cash, you have the ability to be more free from another arm that is wanting to, whether you want to call it oppress you or take from you or eroding factors.
But let's analyze that for a second. The Internal Revenue Service is designed to police and enforce the income tax. Mm-hmm. Okay. Bitcoin is based on consumption, based on spending. I've spent money here, I've spent money there. It's not really necessarily earned. The whole notion of the IRS is based on income, which is never supposed to be a part of the equation when they started the country.
Right.
We understand we need taxes, but we need it to be consumption-based, sales taxes. Okay? We pay our share of sales taxes, but you have a choice in that matter. You decide to spend that money. You understand you have to pay a tax of sorts based on where you are. That's going to fund some sort of, gosh. I know.
It's going to fund your ability to buy some water. You need some water.
No, it's just post-nasal drip, bane of my existence for a voice actor. when it comes down to this is why income, the IRS exists to monitor how much you're making and trust you to a certain extent, and then penalize you with interests, penalties, and possibly jail time when you're dishonest about how much you make. When in the reality, it's none ya, government, as terms of how much I make. It's none ya in terms of, it's my decision to tell you how much I make.
All the more reason to not have it in a system where somebody else is in control of it.
Right. Bitcoin is based on all the stuff you're talking about, the transparency based on spending, transactions. I've sent some Bitcoin to you. You've sent some to me. I've used it over here, blah, blah, blah. The public has access to that, and they're going to figure out how to have access to that. Why is it the IRS only gets that access? The public doesn't have access to what we spend. What's the difference?
We will see how it plays out, but I promise you, if there's any form of asset or revenue out there, somebody, both in criminal intent and in government, and with government intent, is looking at always trying to find a way to regulate it, observe it, track it, and place it towards you. And I'm still a fan of good old fashioned paper currency. I have, for the record, I have some crypto. I'm not against it. Again, I'm really not against it. I just don't put all my eggs in one basket. Other than the fact that I do trust in our country's currency over anything, I think. Well,
with that being said, what baskets do you have your eggs in? You want to share that?
There's a lot of baskets, dude. I'll give you some basics. I am a fan of real estate. I do think that you can do some wonderful things with real estate.
I agree.
And I show clients how to walk through that process.
You've never shown me.
Stop yourself. I have numerous bonds and contracts of sorts that allow me to have contractual wealth. There's two types of wealth. There's statement wealth and there's contractual wealth. That's the only two types of wealth you can really have. Contractual wealth is a guarantee. It's a piece of paper that says on contract, this is what you have. And it's there and it's guaranteed. Statement wealth is anything that gives you a statement, right? If you have a 401k, an IRA, investments of any sort that go up, down, that it would include Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is more of an investment than a standard currency because it is not just a stable figure, right? You get statements of it's gone up, it's gone down, it's gone way up, it's gone way down. So those are statement wealth. So I would recommend to everybody have some of both. Have contractual wealth and statement wealth. Most everybody is pushed by life to all statement wealth, which means there's no guarantees and there's no certainty. People are often taught to risk money first. Again, the traditional financial planning method, risk your money first. Hopefully it grows enough to where you can save some of that money. And then if you save some of that money, you can use that to pay for some of the protection of the money you're risking. What a backwards system.
Yeah.
How about we protect what you currently have, save because we know it's protected, and then grow from what you've saved and using larger figures to do things correctly. But if we do things correctly and we get the bonds first and contracts, guaranteed wealth, contractual wealth first, then we have all the more reason to risk money without fear of nothing being there.
Yeah.
Everybody's taught to risk it first because honestly, somebody's making money from that. Again, we handle assets under management and we charge a fee for that. Granted, it's much lower typically than just about anybody else out there. At most, we're at the same level. But outside of that, we help people find other methods that will give contractual wealth and other areas of wealth that aren't just tied to 100% risk all the time.
So if you guys have opportunities for some of your clients, are you bringing those opportunities to them?
Well, we're constantly researching opportunities. I'm researching different companies all the time, different products all the time, different pathways to take, different laws, different regulations. I mean, they're just looking at a law. I give you an example. Are you the Secure Act? Are you familiar with the Secure Act?
No.
Okay. The Secure Act, which was passed a number of years ago, states, so for the record, if you have a parent or a grandparent with a 401k or an IRA, that money is yet to be taxed. It's been taxed, what they call tax deferred. The reality is it's tax delayed.
Yeah.
It's going to be taxed. It's just, it hasn't yet. So if you inherit that from a parent or a grandparent, their IRA or 401k, the Secure Act forces you to pay out 100% of that within 10 years. Didn't used to be that way. You used to be able to pay it out throughout the rest of your lifetime. But what that means is now suddenly you inherit money from family and you have to pay it out over 10 years, well, now you're, as a parent or a grandparent leaving that money behind, you are forcing your children or grandchildren into a higher tax bracket probably.
Yeah.
Because if you're making $150,000 a year and suddenly you have to take an extra $50,000 a year from the inherited IRA, well, now you're making $200,000 a year. You're bumping into a higher tax bracket on all of your earnings, even though it's only a $50,000 difference.
Yeah.
So when we structure things correctly, we look at different ways to help adjust for that. It's just moves that take advantage of proper strategy to work within the systems that are created and within the laws that are there. And most people are, the biggest problem is most people aren't even aware of what the laws or the strategies are.
That's the thing.
I had a meeting with a client yesterday. He's 54, 55. And I asked him, he's just stuffing his 401k. Not against it, not for it. It's a tool, just like a hammer is a hammer. It's just a tool. Stuffing his 401k. And I asked him, I said, when can you take that money out? I don't know. Like, so you've been doing this for how long? He was like, oh, since I first entered the workforce. I was like, and you've been doing this without understanding what it even does? Well, yeah, I guess so. I was like, have you ever thought about that before? No. That is not uncommon.
Oh, I bet.
It's people are just, they're not taught.
They just don't know.
They're just not taught because somebody is not teaching for the benefit of teaching them. They're teaching them something or selling them something for the benefit of their own wallet.
Right. I got to go to college because that's what I was told to do.
Well, that's a whole different story.
But that's the same kind of concept. I need a 401k. I need all these other things. They don't even know the origination of what that is.
Right.
Yeah.
We've had that conversation before. Yeah. The whole reason, and again, I'm going to sound like I'm picking on a 401k. I'm not picking on a 401k. Granted, if you have a 401k and that's your primary source of retirement savings that you're building, we should probably talk. And here is why. Do you think taxes are going to be higher or lower in the future? Almost everybody I talk to says.
I'm not sure if they're going to be even existent.
Well,
the way things are going.
I would agree that under this current administration, there's a chance that it may change drastically.
Right.
But we can also say that this current administration is also an outlier from what we've typically seen government do.
Oh, it's complete 180.
So does that mean that what they do is going to stay in power and stay in force, or is somebody going to come back and figure out a way to get back into it again? Is the system going to multiply a number of times and then once again a cancer forms? I don't know.
Right. But
when I talk to people, 90% says, oh, taxes are going to be higher in the future.
So a lot of your model is based on you don't know what you don't know. And we're here to tell you some things that might, expose the matrix, so to speak.
It's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Right? You're kind of doing that.
You're going to see the code in the matrix because we're actually going to walk through how things actually function.
Right.
What decision should you make in life without all the information? That's what everybody's doing every day. They're just making decisions based on this amount of information rather than the whole thing.
And you could help somebody that's making $50,000 a year, I would think.
I do every day.
Right.
Well, every day. Not.
And a lot of people they have this misnomer that, well, I'm just not at that level.
Because I'm not the how much money do you have person. Right. It's if I work with people who don't currently have assets or much assets, or they're not to a point yet, I show them how to have them. I show them how to grow them, how to save correctly so that you can have them.
Right.
Rather, it's the old think back to the first time you went to try to get a job and it was a specific field and you went in and you said, I would like to apply for this job. What experience do you have? None yet.
Right.
But if you give me the opportunity, I will do great at it. I promise. Mm-hmm. Now go get experience and then come back and we'll hire you.
But it's an entry-level job.
Where can I get the experience? Right? It's the same thing with people's financial system. If they don't know where to get the experience, they're never going to get the knowledge to be able to do it right because nobody's trying to teach them how to do it right. Everybody just wants their money.
It's got to be so frustrating to see people that just know what they think they know, what they think is tried and true. And then it's like you see them standing on the tracks. The train's coming.
I've used that analogy before. I'm watching the slowest train wreck on the planet.
Right.
And I can't stop it. And I'm just going,
okay. All you need to do is get off the tracks. Just step to your left. Just get off the tracks. You're going to be fine. Why are you not moving? Stop. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I understand.
It's fascinating. Again, as a as a fan of psychology,
there's one word to put it. Yes.
It is fascinating to witness because the human mind is it's amazing to witness the different directions it can go.
Right. You and I both know people that are just in their ways and they're not vacillating whatsoever.
And I can't save anybody. I can help everybody. Truly, I can help everybody, but I can't save anybody. And that's, I don't think that's what I'm here to do. I don't think I'm here to save people. I think I'm here to help in any way I can and just do it correctly and with a level of sincerity that they will see is going to be beneficial to their life rather than my own wallet.
And now a very poignant and hard-hitting question. Are you ready to wrap this thing up?
This is going to be something weird. I know it.
How do you feel about putting pineapple on pizza?
I knew it was going to be something whack. I don't care. I like, you can put pretty much anything on anything and I'll eat it. I look like I'm starving all the time, but I am a food fan and I will eat just about anything. The only thing you're not going to get me to eat is okra. Other than that, I don't care.
You are an amazing cook. And we've
you.
been to your house for dinners and stuff like that. And it's, oh my gosh, dude, it's like a freaking gourmet, 5-star restaurant we're eating at right now.
I've got my grandma's genes, man. The good old Italian grandma just throws stuff together and it works. I don't know.
That's kind of weird.
It's a blessing.
When do you have her jeans?
We're the same size legs.
Gotcha. How do people find and follow you? And well, you don't do much social media. You're not.
No.
You're more of a lurker. You like to view social media.
That sounds creepy.
Not really a poster.
No.
And we've talked about this in the past as well, that you have such a wealth of information of good ideas and refreshing educational ideas when it comes to what you do, that you should be sharing this on more of a regular basis. But, you're standing on the track and the train is coming. And you won't get off the track. Or at least hop on the train.
We've got our ways of getting clients. Unfortunately, almost everybody we meet with inevitably sends us more people because they're thrilled with what we do. So
Right.
I'd rather get it that way. And I don't feel like I'm doing a lot of marketing, which is nice.
Well, you do BNI.
I do.
Isn't that funny how I was familiar with BNI in the car business? I did it for a season when we worked together. And now you're like in it.
Yeah, man. Well, it was because of you and it was you first, and then Keith
Rathburn
and Kevin
Rathburn.
Michelson, whom I'm grateful to know all three of you guys, and got to know you guys very early on, and who I got to know those two early on in my current field, and knew you from years before, and everybody's telling me you need to do this, you need to do this. It was good. It was a long time coming. I was worried I was going to step on too many toes. And when I got to know Clay Morgan, we got to know each other well. Finally, literally, he just looked at me when I was saying that. I was like, I don't step on too many toes. I'm worried I'm going to, I don't want to throw anybody off. And he goes, shut up and join.
Clay did that? That's funny.
Okay, fine.
While he stared through the back of your head.
Clay's awesome.
Clay is awesome.
Catch up with him. I haven't talked
but
to him
dude,
in a while.
that guy can freaking, he makes eye contact to the point where he's like staring into the next freaking universe. Gosh, man. It's hilarious. And we love him. He's a great guy.
I can't say I've necessarily noticed that, but that is funny that you see that.
He really does. He just locks on, man. He's just, I'm putting my logo back up. Don't mind me. Because after a while it goes away. But with that being said,
I'll just hold this up until it comes up.
Yeah, you're probably. Let's get our weekend on and wrap this up.
So Michael at Michael at sandawealth.com. It looks like Sanda instead of Santa, like Santa Claus. SANDA wealth.com. Sandawealth.com is our website. That's the easiest ways to get in touch with me. I check everything. I like to respond and love to meet people. So
that's right. Well, there you go. I'll put all that stuff in the description as usual. So make sure you check that out. And always look for us as well. If you like this episode, share it with people. Everything you need will be at mmtbp.com. That is the truncated version of Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast.com. That's available as well. So, but probably easier just to do mmtbp.com. A link is there as well for you to possibly be on the podcast. Fill out the form. You'll be able to, it'll come right to me and our team will look at it and see if we can get you on and all that fun stuff. but all the things are right there. Mike, man, this is long overdue. This is the first time we've done this.
Yeah, man, I'm thrilled. I was when you're in your old podcast. I think it was like the second or third recording you'd ever done.
We did that's right, the commute.
Yep,
that's right.
You were working out some of the sound stuff. That was awesome. Right. I do have 2 questions, real quick.
Okay.
MMTBP, is that pronounced?
I know.
Okay,
it's an acronym.
Is this I have to know. Is this the longest one of these you've done? We would. I thought that
we're
would
probably, and we took a little bit of a break. I had to go use the bathroom, so we're probably about a minute 40, an hour 42.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe a little less.
We ended up taking a few detours. That was fun.
That's okay, but
it's
a good free flowing conversation.
No, that was awesome.
Hey,
if Rogan thank you for the opportunity.
If Rogan can do 3 hours, we can do just under 2. But I don't think it's the longest one ever.
Okay.
So, cool. Well, there you go. Everything's right there. Thanks for joining us. And Mike, as always, a pleasure.
Buddy, my pleasure. Thank you, truly.